Hi, Assalamualaikum and good morning. So today I would like to share with you additional information, two more topics for nonverbal communication. This is going to be beneficial for you when you are going to answer for your test. All right, your test would be next week, but I just got a message from Dr. Mazlin asking to do this test on week 11, but I'm not sure about that yet. I will share the information as soon as I receive the news, right? Okay, so not gestures. We're going to start with touch or haptics, yeah? All right, so let's take a look on touch and haptics. Alright, okay. So haptic is the discipline which study the sense of touch. Definitely, haptics and touch means same thing. Alright. So it is a form of nonverbal communication and the way by which people communicate via touching. Sometimes, in a group of work, for example, if we would like to say congratulations to our friends, sometimes we just pat on the shoulder. Alright. Okay, so touch or the haptic sense is extremely important for humans, as well as providing information about surfaces or textures. Haptic is a component in interpersonal relationship and vital in conveying physical intimacy. Yes, definitely. Like I mentioned just now, sometimes haptic can come together with verbal communication. You say congratulations and then you pat on the shoulder. All right, and then when it comes to personal relationship, for example, so touch would be one of the most non-verbal cues that communicate your feelings toward your spouse, for example. Okay, all right. There are many kinds of touch, like positive touch, negative touch, playful touch, serious touch, and control touch. Right? I have given you one of the example just now. Congratulations, all right? You pat on the shoulder. That is one of the example of positive touch. Negative touch, maybe you are angry with this particular person, so you would like to punch him on the face, for example. All right. Playful touch, when you are actually hang out with a bunch of friends, so you have the playful touch with your good friends, for example. And then serious touch, control touch, we're going to look at this in a while. Yep. Okay, so according to Such 1998, touch is the foundation for communication with the world around us, probably the single sense that is as old as life itself. Definitely, it is started with touch, right? In order for us to be here today, it will start with touch, right? And then when we die, for example, the last that we can feel is the touch of our loved one, for example. That is what it meant by such. Touch is the foundation, right, for communication with the world around us, and probably the single sense that is as old as life itself. All right. So tactile communication. So here in touch or haptic, we have these elements called tactile communication. So tactile communication is the sense of touch, right? Tactile communication therefore refers to all ways of skin effects, right? Skin effects, and reacts to other forms of bodily contact either from others or ourselves, and signal a message that has at least one meaning. Alright, so human communicate emotion through a variety of channel, but one of the earliest to develop and perhaps most powerful is the sense of touch. Definitely, we have verbal communication, we have non-verbal communication, and one of the most powerful non-verbal cues that transmit our emotion and feeling is the touch, is the sense of touch. Alright, so the relationship of the sense of touch to communication of emotional state is observed in language. For example, the English word feeling, like I mentioned earlier. Alright, so tactile communication is actually a skinned effects, and it reacts to other form of bodily contact. Somehow it transmit the feeling, the emotions from us, for example, to the other interlocutors. Okay, all right. So touch communicate many different things. Definitely, all right. Touch has substantial communicate potential. Okay, potential, but this potential has not been fully explored. A number of factors can be attributed to this. Definitely, we have discussed earlier. Touch can somehow shows that you have uh, positive feelings towards this particular party. It can shows negative feeling. It can also shows that you are actually in control, right? And it can shows that you are angry, you are sad. Okay, so a number of factors can be attributed to the potential of touch has not been fully explored. Number one is many individuals have accepted the misconception that touch is a primitive sense and therefore has limited value in the transmission and reception of meaning in interpersonal communication. I believe one of the most popular Netflix episode right now is Wednesday, correct? If you could see from the movie, she hates touch, correct? All right. Because sometimes people think that touch is actually a primitive sense and they did not value the touch. When you would like to communicate with these kind of people, they only receive verbal communication. Sometimes non-verbal communication, including facial expression, as well as hand gestures, would be ineffective for them, right? And then number two, ironic as it may seem, ours is a society with strong inhibition and taboos about touching others. Correct. Sometimes it is we can touch in Islam, for example, we can touch between our own genders, but it is prohibited for us to touch the other gender, for example. And then I believe we have touched on this last week. For Arabic people, for example, when they see us, they will somehow hug us, right? They will kiss our chin, for example, or cheek, whatever it is. But for Malaysian, for example, all right, we do not have this kind of culture. We do not have this kind of culture. Sometimes it is quite an issue when we need to somehow shake hands with strangers, correct? We simply say Assalamualaikum and then we go our ways, right? Without having that kind of touch. Finally, much less American research has been done on touch that on other types of non-verbal communication, such as facial expression and eye behaviors, correct? When you are looking for research on touch, there will be less research that have been conducted on this particular topic. I'm not sure why. Maybe because it is hard for us to find somebody who would like to be in that kind of to be the participants of the study. Because sometimes because not everyone are very comfortable with people touching us. Okay, alright. So the next one we're going to somehow cover on the semantic of touch. I believe before this we have learned about the semantic in language, alright? Miss Ona had already discussed this with most of you, and today we're going to talk about the semantic of touch. Okay, the semantic of touch is not a simple matter. In a professional setting, for example, a man touching a woman can communicate a distinctively, alright, different meaning than would result from a woman touching a man, right? Definitely. Sometimes when men touch women, it somehow transmit emotion differently from men touching a man, a women touching a man. Okay, woman touching a man. So the meaning of touch are affected not only by who touches whom, but by the type of touch. How you somehow touch your friends, how you somehow touch your spouse, for example, it transmits other emotion. Okay, so Nguyen, Haslin and Nguyen 1975 identify 4 different types of touches. Number 1 is a pat, okay, a squeeze, a brush and stroke. So the squeeze and brush seem to communicate meaning that varies with the context. In contrast, a pat is usually interpreted to mean that the toucher is playful and friendly, whereas the stroke signals affection and sexual desire. So it is depending on how you somehow touch your friends, how you somehow touch your spouse, for example. Okay. Alright, so 12 different meanings can be communicated by touch. There are 12 different meanings that can be communicated by touch. Support, appreciation, inclusion, sexual interest or attraction, affection, playful aggression, compliance, gaining attention, announcing response, greeting, and departure. So here, there are 12 different meaning, alright, that can be communicated by touch. It can be more, alright, it can be more, but according to Nguyen, there are only 12 different meanings that can be communicated by touch. So in general sense, these tactile meaning are used to express interpersonal attitude, alright. More specifically, they are to be used singly or in combination to serve the 4 primary functions of touch. These 12 different meaning, alright, somehow is used to express interpersonal attitude, alright. They are used together, alright, or in combination to serve the 4 primary function of touch. Number 1 is support function, number 2 is power function, number 3 is affiliation function, and the third one is the aggregation function. So there are 4 primary functions of touch: support, power, affiliation, and aggregation. Okay, what is support function? Allah. Okay, tactile communication, open a new windows, omit that one. Okay, tactile communications assume primary importance when we wish to emphasize feeling of warmth, reassurance, or comfort, definitely. Alright, like we mentioned many times previously, when it comes to touch, it will bring a lot of feeling, it will somehow show a lot of feelings. Sometimes it is not enough having only the verbal communication. We love our friend to somehow hug us, because on that day we're having our moment, alright. For example, we're having a tough week with a lot of assignment to be submitted, and then when we would like to have friends to talk about this, sometimes we need the touch, right? It's not the only motivation, alright, it's not the only verbal motivation, but we would like to have that touch motivation as well. Alright, so tactile messages have been found to be particularly effective in providing reassurance to those who need emotional support. For example, patients who have lost all verbal capacity can ordinarily feel a gentle touch and be moved by the message of caring and reassurance that it represents. Kan? Some terminally ill patients lose the power to speak. When this is the case, a tactile code is sometimes worked out whereby the patient squeeze the nurse's hand once to mean yes and twice to mean no. Right? Alright, so as a nurse, you mention to your patient, alright, squeeze once for yes, twice for no. So this particular patient will use the tactile communication to communicate with the nurse or the doctors. Alright. Okay, so the positive feeling of sympathy, reassurance, understanding, and compassion are transmitted through touch, just as are the negative feelings of anger, hostility, and fear. We discussed about this in the beginning of the slide. All right. So the role of touch in providing support and nurturance in parent-child relationship is well established. This is one of the example. When we touch our children, it shows the emotion that we would like to transmit. But it is how you're going to touch the children. Sometimes when you are angry, you tend to pinch your children, all right, in order to show that you are in control, Right? So the role of touch in providing support and nurturance in parent-child relationship is well established. With increasing concern about child abuse, more attention is being given to assessing the relative appropriateness in different kinds of intrafamily touching. So when it comes to touching, when it comes to giving the love towards your loved one, okay, children ataupun nieces and nephews, it is good for you to learn on how to touch your children in effective way, right? In effective way. Okay, next is the power function. Touch probably function most effectively to delineate the relative power, alright, dominance and status of interacting individuals. Definitely, sometimes touch shows that you are in control, you have the power, alright. Henley's fascinating research has established quite clearly that the frequency with which we touch and are touched by others is a reliable indicator of our perceived power. Alright, so let's take a look at the example. Result from research shows that people reported more likelihood of their touching subordinates and co-workers than bosses. Definitely, you're not going to go and touch your boss, correct? Alright, I am not going and touch the VC, correct? But I might touch Datin. Can you see that? That's the ideas of having this tactile communication. Alright, touching younger or same age people than older ones. I might touch you sometimes to show that you are doing great, for example. Alright, but I'm not going to go and then touch the dean, correct? And touching sales clerk than police officer. I don't think that when the police asks you to turn over, you go out from the car and then you touch the policeman kan? I'm so sorry, what happened? You hold the hand and everything. I don't think so. Alright. So likewise, the expectation of others touching them also reflected their hierarchical relationships. Alright. For example, they reported more probability of boss and co-worker touching them than a subordinate doing so. So yes, sometimes touch means power. Okay. In short, the powerful person is apt to be the toucher. When it comes to be the toucher, the powerful person is apt to be the toucher, and powerless person the touch. For example, in class, I am going to be the one who touch you, not you touch me. Unless we have this relationship, we have this what we call as unique relationship, where you can somehow having how am I supposed to say, layback communication with me, for example, right? So because of this relationship, the power of touch is a privilege and reserved by the powerful. All right, this relationship applies even to the untouchable castes of India. All right, they are called untouchable because their low status dictates that they may not touch member of a higher caste. The higher caste of India is Brahmin, alright, and the lowest is Pariah. So definitely Pariah could not somehow touch the Brahmin because of the higher caste. Okay. Alright. So touch is so effective medium for the communication of powerful cues that touches are perceived to have more powers and status than the touch, regardless of the gender of the toucher or the touch. Alright, this is according to Scrock 1980. Alright, to touch enhances one perceived power. To be touched diminishes perceived power. Touches have consistently be perceived as more dominant and assertive than non-touches. Measure 1980. Correct. In order for you to touch people, for example, you need to have the power. I might touch you because I have the power. I am the instructor of your class. It shows that we are having a good relationship in class. For example, sometimes when I ask question and you can answer or you cannot answer, I might somehow transmit the emotions through touch. All right, okay. So in order for you to touch people, in according to this power support, all right, power, you need to have the power to touch people. All right. Okay. The next one is the affiliation function. All right. So in an intimate relationship, the physical messages communicated by your partner's skin may be your best guide as to where, whether, and when you should proceed with more intimate touching. Okay. You can imagine this. You can understand this, because I don't want to somehow explain this in details. Alright, so we should recognize that individuals who are romantically involved with each other may interpret their touches quite differently. Definitely, when it comes to having this romantic relationship, touch means everything, for example, right? Thus, females tend to associate progressively intimate touches with greater commitment. When we touch, we need more, alright? Whereas males do not necessarily do so. You have this arrogant attitude. Arrogance attitude. So a woman's association of touching with commitment seems to become stronger as the touching become highly intimate. That's according to Johnson and Edward, 1991. So it means that females when we touch, right, it shows the intimate relationship and then greater commitment. All right. However, for males, they are arrogant. Sometimes when they touch, it just the meaning of touch. They did not somehow the ideas of touch is not bringing us to another level of emotion. That's what meant. Right. So it shows that women, right, love using touch more than compared to males, right, or men. Okay, so relatedly, men initiate touch significantly more often in casual romantic relationship and during courtship, whereas women initiate touch more frequently in married relationships. Right? So the author suggests that social control may be more important for men in casual relationship, right? Whereas intimacy may become more important than social control in stable long-term relationship. So when it comes to men, sometimes they touch because they would like to show the social control. However, when it comes to a serious relationship, then the touch somehow shows that the social control is actually in a stable for a long-term relationship. Yeah, men initiate touch, alright, significantly more often in casual romantic relationship and during courtship. However, for women, they initiate touch more frequently in married relationship. When you get married, alright, your husband will somehow not that romantic anymore, for example, right? For example, I'm not sure. Okay, all right, so the aggression function, all right, the aggressive touch, or what is sometimes called abusive or violent touch, is problematic and worrisome for the victims, all right. An appropriate touch has been significantly curbed in the corporate world. We are looking this in a corporate world, communication in corporate world, in the workplace. For example, managers and executive point to a marked improvement in both efficiency and interpersonal relation. Yet there are still problems with multiple meanings of touch used in the business context, especially within cross-gender relationship. One study found that men were more likely than women to interpret corporate touch from the opposite gender in a profane manner. Sometimes when we work, alright, we tend to somehow touch our friend. It's not the touch is not somehow to transmit the romantic feeling. It's just that we would like to show that we are grateful having them in our group, for example. However, when it comes to this kind of touch, men somehow mistakenly understood the meaning of that touch, right, of that touch. So be careful. I understand that sometimes we are that hype, right, and then we tend to somehow having, patting on our friends' back, of our friends from other genders' back. So be careful, because sometimes it will be meant something else to them, unless you need to explain that carefully to your other parties. Okay, so some therapists want to use touch, especially when it is needed. Definitely, sometimes when we have problem, we have this anxiety, we have depression, and we would like to see our psychiatrist. Sometimes our therapist or psychiatrist would like to touch us to show us motivation, for example, to show you that you are not alone, for example, right? But however, if you could see here, the use of touch is the exception, not the rule. Okay, sometimes you cannot touch your passion because the touch would mean something else, right? So one area when touching is not often used is the victims of abuse. In fact, Glick of Hughes and Chance 1998 provide 4 recommendations for the therapist when using touch with the client. Alright, if the therapist have any reservation, she or he should avoid the use of touch. Alright, touch should be avoided at the beginning of the therapy. Initiation of touch should always come from the client. Alright. So great discretion should be used when the touch is initiated by one who has survived one form of abuse or the other in the past. So when it comes to seeing a therapist or psychiatrist, when you need the touch very much, sometimes they cannot provide you with the touch. They can only provide you with the motivation verbally, because of this recommendation from their what does it call, body. Okay, all right. Okay, so touch seem to assume a less important role here. However, because touch must interact with eye behavior and gestures to determine the effectiveness of such specific kinds of communication and greetings. Like I mentioned previously, there is a little study conducted on touch, because I believe most of the time people assume that touch is actually having the less important role in non-verbal communication. However, in order for us to have an effective communication, sometimes touch would be one of the medium, all right, coincide with eye behavior, all right, and gestures, in order to determine the effectiveness of the communication, right? Okay, and then we're moving to the next one, dimension of touch. There are 5 dimension of touch: intensity, duration, location, frequency, and the instrument of touch. Let's take a look at what is intensity. So intensity refers to how soft or hard a touch is. For example, a punch can be playful if it is delivered softly. Alah, kan? Alright? Or violent if it is delivered with force. Alright? Duration refers to how brief or prolonged the touch is. A couple might hold hands, mashallah, for a moment or for an hour. In this case, the duration might help define how much intimacy the relational partners communicate to each other. Okay, the duration, time, intensity, soft or hard. Okay, location refers to the place where a person is touched. Be careful, darling. Alright, touches to various body parts are interpreted differently. For example, a study showed that elderly residents in a nursing home evaluated touch above the wrist by nurse more positively than touch below the wrist. So this is a study conducted by Hollinger and Buchman, 1993. Alright, frequency describe the number of touches that occur. Alright, does a father kiss his daughter once when he picks her up from daycare, or does he kiss her multiple times? It shows frequency. Alright, the number of touches that occur. And then the last one, instrument of touch. The instrument of touch made it different Although people usually touch with their hands, they can also touch with other parts such as feet, lips, and shoulders, or with subjects such as the tip of a pencil. For example, a mother might laugh and say, "I'm going to get you," while tickling her son with a teddy bear. So yeah, instrument of touch is also play an important role. All right. Sometimes uh, when you would like to show that you love that your friend, for example, you're going to hug and you're going to use your body as well as your hands, all right, to touch your friend. But sometimes when you are actually having how am I supposed to say, miscommunication, sometimes you miscommunicate, having this miscommunication with your friends, and you don't want to see their faces, but you need to somehow share something with her, so just like kan. So it is somehow the instrument of touch plays an important role, all right, to transmit your emotion, right? Okay, that's all for haptics and touch. However, we're going to continue a little bit with gestures. So gestures is also is also one of the important role in order for us to show emotion. All right, to show emotion. There are three types of gestures. Number one is adapters. Two is emblem, and and then the last one is illustrator. What is adapters? Okay, adapters is the touching behavior and movement that indicate internal states, typically related to arousal or anxiety. All right. So adapters can be targeted toward the self, objects, or others. In regular social situation, adapters result from uneasiness, anxiety, or a general sense that we are not in control of our surrounding. Many of us subconsciously click pens, shake our legs, or engage in other adapters during classes, meeting, or while waiting as a way to do something with our excess energy. Sometimes we feel uneasy when we need to present something in front of the class, for example. So we are going to adapt to the situation. We are feeling uneasy. We are not comfortable to present in front of the audience. We are going to use adapters in order to help us to feel easy. So some of the examples of adapters is clicking pens. Kan? Today I would like to present about so this is what we call as adapters. We try to adapt to the surrounding, and we use something that is somehow near to us, all right, something that is near to us, for example pen, or maybe we can shake our lens, or try to somehow engage in other adapters during class. Maybe you have your mouse with you, so you're going to use these adapters, all right. This is what we call as the medium of adapters, in order to ease us, all right, in order to help us to present better, all right. Okay, that is what we call adapters. All right, we try to adapt to the environment. We are going to use anything, all right, surrounding us, or maybe we're going to somehow make use of our body, all right. Sometimes you are going to clicking your hands, all right, shake your legs, or maybe like this, all right, like I'm doing right now, kata-kata hidung. That is what we call as adapters as well. Okay, all right, and then the next one is emblem. Okay, emblem is gestures that have a specific agreed on meaning, all right. Even though they have a generally agreed on meaning, they are not part of a formal sign system like ASL that is implicitly taught to a group of people. Definitely Pekat dan Bisu, for example, they have this hand sign language, right? Sign language, but this is not as similar as sign language. Emblem is not the same as sign language. Alright, emblem can be still or in motion. For example, circling the index finger around the side of your head, he or she is crazy, or rolling your hands over and over in front of you says move on. Sometimes we share the same meaning. Alright, macam ni kan, kawan tu gila contohnya. Alright, or maybe just go. Okay, bye-bye, right? So we shared the same meaning of these particular movement or gestures, but this is not somehow same with sign language, right? Sign language. Okay, the last one is illustrator. The most common type of gestures and are used to illustrate the verbal message they accompany. For example, you might use hand gestures to indicate the size or shape of an object. Macam mana besarnya kotak ni. Some sort of that, alright? So you are going to use some the size of a shape using your hand gestures, alright? Unlike emblems, illustrator do not typically have meaning on their own and are used more subconsciously than emblem. Emblem is something that you share with your community. When you say this, people understand the same. You are talking about this person who is crazy, for example. But according to illustrator, you illustrate something according to what you understand. And it is depending to the other interlocutors to understand the same way or not. But illustrators, we come along with your verbal communication. Besarnya kotak ni. Besarnya kotak ni. So you say something and you illustrate that thing. Cantiknya matahari, for example. Alright? So unlike emblem, illustrator do not typically have meaning on their own and are used more subconsciously than emblem. Right? These largely involuntary and seemingly natural gestures flow from as we speak, alright, but vary in terms of intensity and frequency based on context, right? So there are 3 types of gestures. Number 1 is adapters, number 2 is emblem, and the third one is illustrator. So that's all about touch and gestures. Good luck for your test. Thank you.